to the webinar. We are going to begin. This is the NCEES webinar entitled The North Carolina Professional Teaching Standard 3. To begin, we're going to do a little housekeeping. My name is Heather Stewart. I will be presenting today. Could you please raise your hand if you can hear my voice? You'll see on the GoToWebinar doc, under attendees, you'll see a hand. Click on the hand and that will raise your hand. If you can hear my voice, raise your hand. All right, fantastic. If you can see my screen with the orange arrows and the yellow highlighted pieces of the GoToWebinar doc, if you can see my screen, please raise your hand. All right, fantastic. On the GoToWebinar doc, there's also a place for questions. Here is where you can say hello. If you can find the questions bar, go ahead and type in hello or a message or any questions you might have at this time. We will not be using the handout section or the chat section of the GoToWebinar doc today. A copy of the PowerPoint presentation will be available on the NCEES Wiki space in the next couple days, along with the recording of this webinar. All right. Presenting today is myself, Heather Stewart, Professional Development Coordinator for the South. Also, Jennifer Bass will be on the line. She's Professional Development Coordinator for the East. And Dr. Mandy Taylor helped develop some content, and Dr. Lisa Amerson. They are unavailable today, but we have Dr. Kim Simmons on the line who's going to also help. Our email addresses are listed on the slide if you have any questions at all about the North Carolina Professional Teaching Standards or the NCEES process. When participating in a webinar, we do have a few norms. In order to have a great experience, let's try to minimize our outside distractions. Please notify us in the questions bar if you are having any technical difficulties. You can also raise your hand, and someone on the line will try to answer your questions. You can ask a questions using the questions bar at any time. Our outcomes for today: we will review how to access the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System, the evaluation process as a whole. We will review the Professional Teaching Standard 3 and discuss questions and strategies for Standard 3 and share some information and resources. As a reminder for folks that may be new, to access the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System, you need your NCEES Cloud login. You would log in to Rapid Identity, the IAM, and with that login, you will see icons like you see on the screen below to Canvas, PowerSchool, and NCEES. NCEES is identified by a green circle with a little line for True North logic. When you access the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System, Effectiveness System, you will see tabs across the top, the home page, your evaluations, professional development tab, and the help guides. Just a quick plug, the help guides are there for your use. They help you navigate the online tool as well as the evaluation process. There are resources and information available in the help guides. Understanding the standards is part of the teacher evaluation process. There are 4 steps to the evaluation process. In step 1, there is training and orientation. For step 2, there's the teacher self-assessment, the pre-observation conference. For step 3, there are the observation cycles and the post-observation conference. And for step 4, the summary evaluation conference and summary rating form and completion of the professional development plan. On the screen, you see a resource that helps teachers identify the evaluation cycle type they are on and how many observations and conferences occur during your year. This resource can be found on the NCEES wiki space. We have done some webinars in the past around the professional teaching standards. We have already reviewed Standard 1 and Standard 2. Those webinar recordings and resources can be found on the NCEES wiki space under Archived Webinars. Today, we are going to look at Standard 3. Teachers know the content they teach. To review Standard 3, we're going to do a deep dive and some practice. We're going to do a close reading of the elements, unpack the elements, and then discuss the impact on practice. Let's begin with Standard 3, Element A. Teachers align their instruction with the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. In order to really understand Element A, we want to do a close read of the description of the element. Teachers align their instruction with the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. In order to enhance the North Carolina Standard Course of Studies, teachers investigate the content standards developed by professional organizations in their specialty area. They develop and apply strategies to make curriculum rigorous and relevant for all students. They provide a balanced curriculum that enhances literacy skills. Elementary teachers have explicit and thorough preparation in literacy instruction. Middle and high school teachers incorporate literacy instruction within the content area or discipline. All of that information is highlighted in the gray box. But if we look at the key words and key verbs in our close read, it will tell us a lot more about what Standard 3, Element A is really about. Looking at the key verbs, teachers would align, enhance, investigate, develop, apply, provide. And the content or the stuff that they do and the things that they work with, we're looking at instruction, the standard course of study, content standards. We're looking at rigorous material, relevant material, a balanced curriculum, literacy skills, literacy instruction. All of those words were in the description for the element. So let's unpack that a little bit more. One of the words was rigor. And so really understanding rigor And our role as educators for Standard 3A is very important. On the screen, you'll see some information that actually comes from the North Carolina State Board of Education policy defining rigor. There's a lot of information actually in this policy that lets us know what we need to know and be able to do in regards to rigor for teaching. Notice that it's about supportive relationships. It's about an application of knowledge and real-world problems. Some of the bold words there on the screen. And the policy says students must, and there's a bulleted list. Students must, when it comes to rigor, demonstrate content mastery and application of skills and critical thinking. That would be appropriate, obviously, to the content area. Become engaged learners who actively and responsibly participate in the learning process. Students must raise questions, solve problems, think, reason, and reflect. Consider that in a lesson design. How can we, as teachers, design lessons that have students raise questions, solve problems, think, reason, and reflect within that lesson? Notice it says that high-level assignments, relevant high-level assignments. Students should demonstrate learning through portfolios, exhibitions, service learning projects, senior projects. They should be able to communicate effectively and appropriate for a variety of purposes. That means we need to know what that looks like. Communicating verbally or through writing, and what those purposes might be. Is it persuasive? Is it compare and contrast? Are they defending something? And students must understand their own learning styles in order to strengthen the way that they learn. That's really interesting that that comes from state board policy about rigor. And it helps us identify how we can design lessons that meet those needs. Also, in state board policy, it talks about rigor and what educators and administrators must do. Administrators, for example, must examine their own belief systems towards teaching, towards children and learning, and expect that all students will learn and achieve at high levels. Work collaboratively with faculty members and provide opportunities for educators to collaborate and plan. So that's what your administrators in your building should be doing in regards to rigor. And for teachers, for educators, the same thing applies in many ways. Examining your own belief system about, do we believe that all students can learn and achieve at high levels? Demonstrating mastery of content area and making it relevant for all students. Providing an environment that supports children reflecting on their own learning. Using a variety of assessment methods. Engaging students in active reasoning and critical thinking. Working collaboratively with other faculty members and staff. Cultivating positive relationships with students, parents, and community, and providing students with necessary academic and social supports. All of these relate to rigor. And further defining academic rigor, there's more information about strategies and standards for all educators across the state. This information is shared with you because I wanted to help you think about your role as an educator in providing rigorous lesson designs and thinking about what that means for students. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to put those in the questions bar. And Jennifer Bass or Dr. Kim Simmons will let me know if there's any questions. One of the other things that is mentioned for Standard 3 is balanced curriculum. So it's important for educators to know what is a balanced curriculum and what it's not. A balanced curriculum includes a standard course of study, and it's not about planning and teaching in isolation. Some of the other things of what it is, it's including the whole child, the common curriculum, knowing how children develop and learn, includes all subject areas. So we're looking at cross-curricular lesson plans, understanding how kids' brains work and grow. Again, that word rigor, and promoting relationships. And what it's not is teaching to the test, that one size fits all, teaching to the text, that it's about strategies and skills. As we further unpack the element, there are resources that are available to you. They are on the NCEES wiki space. There's 2 different documents. There's an evidence document and a reflective questions document. The evidence document gives lots of ideas of what it might look like in the classroom if you were thinking about your rubric around proficient and accomplished. And so some of the things from the evidence document might be under element 3A, standard 3A, that teachers integrate 21st century skills, that they engage students in collaborative and investigative dialogue, that they make real-world connections, that we try to strengthen students' writing, speaking, and listening skills, and develop content vocabulary with various strategies. And then there's a reflective questions document that help us think about and self-reflect on our teaching. Do I make my curriculum rigorous? Are my lessons relevant? Do I use literacy skills in my curriculum on a regular basis? And to help you further, there are a few other resources here on the screen. One I want to point out are the self-paced modules that are aligned to the standards and elements. There is a link at the screen I'm going to show you now. This link takes you to a document. It is not the professional development system in NCEES. It's actually a document that, an interactive document where you can go and look at the online professional development that is offered from NCDPI. And one of the interesting and cool things you can do is you can look at professional learning by standards. And you can see all of these self-paced courses that are by standard. So we are in standard 3, element A. And if I click and highlight, what pops up in the light blue box are all the self-paced courses that are aligned to standard 3A. So if you wanted to move along the continuum and be proficient, accomplished, distinguished in the area of standard 3A, a good place to start would be learn more about connecting with our 21st century learning, flipped classrooms, project-based learning, literacy in history and social studies, science, and the technical subjects. Some other resources are also the ELA Live Binder and K3 literacy resources and building Rigor. This 40 Ways to Read Like a Detective is a great resource for all teachers for any subject area. English Language Arts Department developed this resource to help all teachers. If you're teaching math, if you're teaching science, if you're teaching band or physical education, you can download this document and you will have 40 instructional strategies that teach literacy skills, because all students need to be able to learn how to read content and apply comprehension strategies, which are literacy strategies. And so in this 40 Ways resource, you'll see strategies like close read and how that applies to your content area. The say something protocol, that's a strategy to help students read material and comprehend the material. Zoom in or see, think, wonder, also another strategy for reading and comprehension. Are there any questions at this time about the resources and ideas presented around Element A for Standard 3? Jennifer, are there any questions at this time?
No, there are none in the questions bar right now.
All right. If at any time you have questions, please feel free to put them in. And also, if you have any comments or would like to share a resource, you can use the questions bar to share those. Let's move forward and look at Standard 3B. Teachers know the content appropriate to their teaching specialty. Again, we want to do a close read. We want to look at the language in the gray box. Element 3B, teachers know the content appropriate to their teaching specialty. Teachers bring a richness and depth of understanding to their classrooms by knowing their subjects beyond the content they are expected to teach and by directing students' natural curiosity into an interest in learning. Elementary teachers have a broad knowledge across disciplines, and middle school and high school teachers have depth in one or more specific content areas or disciplines. This is telling you a lot about what this element is about. If we break it down and look at the verbs and the words, teachers know, bring, direct, have a depth of understanding, a broad knowledge. And the keywords are content, specialty, a richness, depth, that natural curiosity. So again, we can go to the evidence document and we can pull out some of the bullet points there that look at what does that really mean and what does that look like in the classroom. The teachers model natural curiosity for lesson content. So if you are a math specialist, you're clearly excited about math, and you get kids excited about math by showing them really cool things. Or if you're a science teacher, maybe doing an experiment or showing them cool facts that have to do with nature. It's that natural curiosity that get kids involved in the content. You as a teacher motivate investigation into knowledge about that content area and how it applies to the real world. Why do I need to know chemistry and how is this important? For example, you help them figure out examples, concrete examples in the real world in your lessons, and modify lessons to ensure greater understanding for all kids, helping to scaffold that for all kids, and encourage students to explain their answers in the learning process. That helps you move across the continuum from proficient to accomplished, really thinking about how kids can explain and show you what they know. And remember, it's specific to the content area. That's what Standard 2 or Standard 3B is about, is being specific to the content area and the skills and strategies you use for that. And there are reflective questions that can help you think about your instruction. How do you inspire students in your lessons? And what evidence do you have? Some ways that will help you if you're a new teacher or new to a content area or just want to know more. Some places to go is the Wiki Central. In Wiki Central, all of the content areas, as notated by the red arrow, have wiki spaces and resources available to teachers. There's a ton of information for teachers, lesson plans, assessments, projects, ideas. If I were to go over to the Math Wiki, for example, there's a lot of information on the Math Wiki space. On the left side, you'll see professional development and webinars. Here's where the math department has provided training and resources for teachers you may have had an opportunity to attend. If I just click elementary, for example, K-5, I can scroll through and see the training PowerPoint presentations and resources around ensuring mathematics success for all, for example. And look at all of the resources. There's a fraction handout. There's vignettes. There's games, scenarios. If I keep scrolling down, there's lesson plans and handouts. There are EOG items for practice. Sort and label cards. There's posters that you can print and put in your classroom. There is a ton of resources in the content area wikis in Wiki Central. This presentation, again, will be available on the NCEES Wiki space, and from the presentation, you'll have a PDF version of this. You'll be able to click on any of the links here. And again, you can go to the online professional development, search by standards, and find professional learning self-paced modules aligned to standard 3B. And on the screen here are a couple links for some other instructional practices that could really help you in this particular area. Remember that when you're thinking of specific to your content area, what are the grouping practices and structures that are appropriate for, say, phys ed or band or chemistry? What about using manipulatives and discussion structures? Do they look different in your class than someone else's? What about experimenting? How does that look in AP history? And there are two links for Universal Design for Learning and the 4 C's. Universal Design for Learning is about that first teach, that first time you teach a lesson and how to get the biggest bang for your buck. And the 4 C's, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. Those 4 components being integrated in all lessons. And just from the Math Wiki, I pulled out that natural curiosity to give some information and an example of what that looks like. I am a literacy specialist, so when I went and looked at the Math Wiki space, I found some really interesting math facts, and it made it more interesting to me, and then I therefore shared it with my kids. And so there's 3 facts down there. For example, did you know that there's only one number in math that's spelled using the same number of letters as the number itself? And that number is 4. And then I tried this with my 8th grade son. The number 9 is a magic number. If you multiply a single digit number, say 5, with 9, and add all the digits of the resulting number, the sum would always be 9. So 5 times 9 is 45. 4 plus 5 is 9. And if you do that with any number, the sum of the digits will always be 9. Very interesting. Maybe you knew that. I didn't. So I want to pause here before we move on to element 3C. Are there any questions or comments from our group or anything that you want to add, Jennifer or Kim?
The only questions that have come up so far are asking, are the resources going to be available after this webinar? And I have let them know in the question bar that this will The recording will be available as well as the slide deck that has all of the links that you've shared today. But so far, that's everything that's come up.
All right, thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying the resources. All right, so let's take a look at Standard 3, Element C. Teachers recognize the interconnectedness of content areas and disciplines. And so again, we want to do a close read of the information that is in the description. The description says teachers recognize the interconnectedness of content areas and disciplines. Teachers know the links and vertical alignment of the grade or subject they teach in the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. Teachers understand how the content they teach relates to other disciplines in order to deepen understanding and connect learning for students. Teachers promote global awareness and its relevance to subjects they teach. And so again, we look at the key verbs and the key words. The verbs tell you what you should be doing, right? So recognize, know, understand, deepen, promote, relate, learn, interconnectedness. And then the key words, content areas, disciplines, vertical alignment, that's important in Standard 3C, and Standard Course of Study, and global awareness. So we have those documents that help us think about our instruction. The evidence pieces, there's some examples from the evidence document. So to be proficient or accomplished or distinguished as you move across the continuum, teachers should include cross-curricular activities within their lesson to be proficient or accomplished in this area. Ask questions relative to more than one subject area. Demonstrate content knowledge and the connectedness to other subjects. Provide relevant examples. Explore student perceptions and experiences within the lesson. And work with other teachers in different grades and subject areas. And think to ourselves, how do I vertically align my instruction? What other subjects can I integrate into my lesson? What global competencies were in this lesson? And how do I promote that? I'm probably going to need to know a lot about global competencies. So I can do that by taking some courses, self-paced courses about global awareness, diversity, and cultural sensitivity in the classroom. Those are available for all teachers. Maybe the course about writing to learn, getting kids to share. And then there are some resources here about aligning curriculum. The new information about the North Carolina Global Education Commitments and Resources and the Global Educator Digital Badge. So if I click on some of these resources, on DPI's website, there is information about North Carolina Global Education, the report, and resources for schools who are doing pilot programs. There are commitments for people, schools that are participating in this, and resources. And you can check out those resources at any time. There's also, they're looking at a digital badge program that they're just starting to pilot. So if you want more information, you can click on those links. And the global competencies actually pop up in the next element. So let's look at the last element under Standard 3. Teachers make instruction relevant to students. Reading further the description, teachers make instruction relevant to students. They incorporate 21st century life skills into their teaching deliberately, strategically, and broadly. These skills include leadership, ethics, accountability, adaptability, personal productivity, personal responsibility, people skills, self-direction, and social responsibility. Teachers help their students understand the relationship between the North Carolina Standard Course of Study and 21st century content, which includes global awareness, financial, economic, business, and entrepreneurial literacy, civic literacy, and health awareness. Whew, that's a lot of information. It takes some deep diving into this. a little bit more than just looking at the key words and key verbs. So if we really start to look at this element and look at the gray box, you can see some words really pop out. The teachers incorporate 21st century life skills deliberately, strategically, and broadly. So this is purposeful planning. And we definitely need to know about 21st century life skills. And then there's other words there that are in blue, what those skills are: leadership, ethics, accountability, and so forth. So let's look at that. They're highlighted here in the gray box and across the continuum. The 21st century life skills are leadership, ethics, accountability, adaptability, personal productivity, personal responsibility, people skills, self-direction, and social responsibility. And so, as educators, we are teaching students about these life skills, and we are having students practice and show what they know. So we should define them. Oh, also the 21st century content. The 21st century content has 4 key pieces. It's defined in the element in the gray box. It's global awareness, civic literacy, health literacy, and then financial, economic, business, and entrepreneurial literacy. So those are the 21st century content. So we need to teach about these skills and content. So let's define the life skills. The life skills are defined here. You can look, you can find these definitions in the, I believe, in the teacher manual, as well as on the P21 website, but I believe it's in the manual. The 21st century life skills. Look at accountability. Setting and meeting high standards and goals for oneself and others. Adaptability. Adapting to varied roles and responsibilities, tolerating ambiguity and changing priorities. Personal productivity. Utilizing time effectively and manage workload. Being punctual and reliable. So we have to think about, as educators, how do we incorporate these skills, and teaching these skills and having students showing these skills within a lesson. And then we also want to think about the 21st century content. How can we include this content into our lessons? And again, deliberately, strategically, and broadly. And then the definitions of that 21st century content is listed on the screen here. You'll see for global awareness, what that really means is they're using their 21st century skills. They are understanding other nations and cultures. They're working collaboratively. For financial economic literacy, they need to learn how to make appropriate personal economic choices, the role of economy in society, how to enhance the workplace and productivity and career options. It's a lot of information just in Standard 3 Element D. So to help us learn more about that, we definitely want to use the documents that are available to us. The evidence documents give us some ideas. Having students discuss real-world problems and solutions in small groups, challenging students to problem solve and explain their thinking process. Creating lesson plans that are problem-based learning. And you can go to Edutopia to help learn about problem-based learning and project-based learning. Having students defend their thinking and extend their thinking beyond what they already know. And debate. And be reflective about, was I including some 21st century skills in my lesson or the 21st century content, and what activities support students' growth in those areas? There are a few wiki pages and professional learning that can help you in these areas. There's a global awareness professional development wiki that has a lot of lessons and readings and examples of global awareness and how that can be incorporated in your classroom. The Professional Development System course catalog will show you courses that align to this element. As I said, there is the P21 framework. This webpage gives you information about 21st century skills. And you can go here and find a lot of information, as well as there is a Classroom 21 wiki space that gives you a toolbox and professional learning that has occurred in the past in this area. There's some really great resources here. Any questions about Standard 3, Elements C or D?
Hi, Heather. This is Kim Simmons. We do not have any questions at this time.
All right, fantastic. Here's another look at the deep dive that we went into for Standard 3 and the elements. Keep in mind that as you're thinking through the deep dive of the standard, as you're working together as educators, it's about collaboration and relationships amongst each other and with your students and right or wrong answers. It's about building an understanding of this rubric and the standards and looking at your continuum as you think across for developing, proficient, accomplished, distinguished. For any administrators on the line, for coaches on the line, it's about having discussions and making decisions together about what this looks like in the class room, And don't forget about those resources, the evidence document and the reflective questions document.
If I could make a comment here, Heather, about the reflective questions document. Really, if you follow the reflective questions document, that gives you such insight into what the standard is really about. So I highly recommend that when you're preparing for your post-observation conversations or you're preparing to develop your PDP, that you use these questions to really help you understand and to help your evaluator understand the purpose of the individual elements. And there are questions for the individual elements. It's just a great resource to help us infuse some calibration and some iterator reliability within our judgment of what our rating should be.
And here's a look at the full document. The full document has reflective questions for all standards and all elements. And it's an easy printable document that you can keep. Thanks, Kim. So as a reminder, accessing professional development courses that are aligned to the standards. You can access your professional development through the NCEES system. At the top of your homepage, there is a professional development tab that's highlighted in blue on the screen. You can search for courses in the course search box, and you can find courses you've already taken through My Courses, and you can look at your transcript. When you search for courses, you can search by topic, for example, discipline, and what will pop up are self-paced courses that are aligned to that topic area. You can also show all and just peruse the courses. And if you want to take that self-paced course, you click on the title and then click Start, and it should open up into a Moodle. When you complete, when you close out of your course, if you want to go back into a course that you haven't finished, you simply click on your learning opportunities and it'll show all your courses that are there. At the conclusion of your course, if there is a survey, it'll be noted here, and you'll take that survey. You have to complete all pages, all activities, and surveys in order for the course to be complete and for it to show up on your transcript. Please note that instructor courses are not being facilitated at this time. More information will come in the future about instructor-led courses. But there are some new self-paced courses that maybe you haven't heard of. There's the North Carolina K-3 Formative Assessment Process for Teachers, Instructional Strategies to Support K-3 Oral Language Development, and Digital Literacies 1 and 2. A complete list can be found at the rt3nc.org, or you can search courses in the Professional Development System in NCEES. They are free of charge to all North Carolina public school employees. And there are a ton of modules and mini modules.
Heather, we have a question. Are there any rubric templates that may be used as guides for incorporating literacy in math and also serve as exemplars?
Rubrics.
I'm not familiar with any, but that would be a great idea if there were some out there. I can't imagine there's not.
So one of the best things that you can try to do, because in Wiki Central for all of the wiki spaces for content areas, boy, there's a lot of information and it's really hard to find things. The search bar in a wiki space for math content area, social studies, science, ELA, if you type in rubric, you might find some things. So text complexity, there's some rubrics there. There's an AV rubric, academic vocabulary rubric. And so if we go over to, let's say, math, let's go over to math. And let's go put in rubric and see what we can find. We're going to note your question and see if we can post some of those resources back to you if we can find anything.
Okay. I think that's all.
All right.
Heather, we have a question asking if we will receive credit for taking this class. I thought there may be more people that have the same question. Would you like for me to
Great
answer?
question. Yeah.
We do not issue credit for webinars. However, you can have your LEA issue you credit if they would like to. If you would like to take attend more than one webinar and then receive evidence of the completion of the webinar, they can issue you the credit. Heather, is that how we've decided to do it?
Absolutely. And all you need to do is contact your HR person. And if they need verification that you participated in the webinar today, we can provide that for them.
Yeah.
They received the verification in the follow-up email that they attended. And that email goes out 24 hours after the webinar, so it'll be end of day tomorrow when they receive the email, and they just print it off and take it to HR.
Thank you, Delia.
We have some other upcoming webinars that are happening in February and March. I put a few on the screen for you. If you go to the link that's on that page, it will show you all of the webinars that are coming up for till the end of the school year. There are webinars for the school executive standards, and there's principal ready follow-up webinars. The next standard, standard 4, A through D, will be on February 27th at 4 o'clock. And then standard 4, E through H, will be on March 27th at 4 o'clock. And you can register there on the links provided. We will stay on the line for any additional questions, but this is the